That's perfect.
So let's talk a little bit. It should be cool.
Can I talk like this? Is that this like?
Yeah,
how much
it's good now, but I will actually do that just to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
sure that it's
yeah.
it's well recorded.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much first.
Thank you for having me.
My first question is maybe in Minborda, it seems like you have much more characters in each one of your film. Todd and Todd, it's almost two. Even if in the coffee there is people, maybe I don't remember, but
No,
well,
actually
it's
not.
no, so
So
it's
it's
really
yeah,
two.
yeah.
Then a little bit more for in Simel, and then now you have much more people. Why is it only a production thing, or really to say something much more about first to people and then to talk more about the world?
Exactly. For Tord and Tord, I had this idea about only using these two characters from the beginning because it's very much about like mental illness and their relationship. Relationship to me is maybe it's only one person with issues that like makes up a friend maybe. That's up to the audience, but I felt the need to really isolate them from the world and so like just make a film with these two, some kind of chamber drama with only these two characters. So for that film I really had a mission with only two characters. And for the burden, actually I kind of like for certain scenes, like for the call center scene with the monkeys, I could have had 20 monkeys if I had the money, basically, because it's a lot of effort and money to make the puppets and also animate so many puppets. So it would have been nice to have like a real kind of Busby Berkeley musical like setup with like tons of characters dancing at the same time. But then I decided that 8 was enough for my for my mental health, I guess.
But it's working well actually, not to have too much people, because it's I don't know, you can feel more, you can understand maybe them more. If there is few people, then because it's not too much a show like Busby Berkeley, but it's really that's
It becomes
people.
more personal,
Yes.
yeah, for sure. And also if you adjust the the actual the room, like the room is kind of made for 8 employees, and when it's 8 employees in that room, then it feels kind of crowded. So you can kind of just need to adjust to the size of the room where it's going to happen.
In your first film, there is a still shots almost every time. It's the camera doesn't move
No,
at all, and in this one, the camera is moving a lot, really slowly, but a lot. Why? Why the changes?
I think I was more interested in this kind of very, like non-moving camera in the beginning, because I think I was maybe more influenced by Roy Andersson, maybe like the Swedish director, and also the early work of Ruben Östlund, which is they often use like a steady cam basically. But for the bird and Min Börda, it's a matter of just trying to make it as this kind of old school musicals that I really wanted to have as some kind of influence for the film, like these kind of Gene Kelly musicals. And in these films they often use a lot of movements, like big movements, like in and out in the pictures, and it becomes much more dramatic and like powerful. So I just decided to go all in on that. And it's the same with the use of music, basically, because in my first films I rarely use no music at all, but in this film I have music all the time. So it was a big difference for me, but it was also very nice to just try that out.
The music and the comedy, because in the first two there is no comedy at all, and on this one it's a really strange comedy, but it's I don't know, in this one it's a kind of a really strange mix between despair but hope there is some hope in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. I like to say it is. I mean, maybe some hope through the apocalypse, or I don't know. But I think like for my first two films, and also for this one, I really like to use the contrast between something that's funny, but also kind of unpleasant, or maybe scary or sad. So I like to use like both of those atmospheres at the same time. And I'd say in Tord and Tord, I'd say it's a bit funny sometimes, but it's a very dry kind of humor. And like the same thing with Bathhouse, even though I really like, you know, to think of the story that like are you supposed like like for the audience to feel, are you supposed to be like, are you supposed to be scared or happy about this? Are you supposed to laugh or cry, you know? So I'm kind of interested in that contrast, basically.
It was quite interesting in Nancy. A lot of people I was talking to, well, saying like, yeah, that was interesting, this film, but it's so funny at the beginning, but then it's becoming less and less funny. And of course, for me, they were missing the whole point of the film. But it was like they don't like to have mixed feeling. A film has to be funny or political, but not both of them.
No, but that's very interesting, because yeah, I've heard similar reactions, and I don't understand that at all. I really enjoy films that are both, like in general. But it's actually very interesting because, for example, my first film, Tord and Tord, when it was, it's really a matter of where you screen the film, because like in Stockholm, in Sweden, where I first screened it, like everyone was just laughing so hard, like during the whole film, because I do think that in Sweden we are kind of looking at animation as like children's culture more, and like it was enough just for the audience to see like a talking rabbit, and they just like burst into, you know, tears from laughing. But then when I screened it in Annecy, everyone was just like dead silent, and like someone laughed a little bit once, and someone else were like shh, hushing towards that person, and afterwards everyone was like, yeah, this is really Kafka, this is really dark. And it's just really interesting how different cultures like react to the story.
Sometimes you think that you lose a film. When I say lose a film to the audience, that somebody's come to you and say, "Oh, it must mean that or that," and you didn't think about that.
No, but that's really interesting, because you have these ideas about a film when you're working with it, but then when you release the film, it's really not yours anymore. It's just up to the audience to. I mean, you do have your own opinion, but it's not you who decide anymore. It's just up to the audience, and it's a matter of just losing control, I guess. But I think that's also very interesting. It's interesting to see people's reactions in general.
And you do also this ending that are really open ending, actually, for the audience, so you can think of, like you say in Todd and Todd, you don't really know. I mean, I show that to my student, and one point there is somebody who told me, well, the fox is eating the rabbit, you know, a thing like that. So you can, I mean, choose whatever, not whatever, but a lot of different meaning.
And I do think, especially when it comes to short films, I think that because short films usually they are screened in a program with several films, and you need to kind of take something away with you when you see a short film, like something that itches a bit, you know. So I really like to keep my endings, or at least something in the film, a bit not really clear, or a little bit like, yeah, something for you to think of, basically. So yeah, I think that's important.
One of the important thing in your film are all the details, of course, of all the sets and everything. And I discovered that you studied props and special effects at the beginning. So that's really from the beginning you like that, just to do I don't know, to make new I don't know how to say that in English, but yeah, to make but really detailed world actually.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I really do come from that kind of industry more than I have never studied film. I have only like studied. I studied prop making and set design, and then I went to art school. So I've been also in art school for 5 years. And I think that it's a little bit like you can feel that you're a little bit outside like the conventional film industry in Sweden. That you're a little bit you're not really connected to the crowd that makes like live action film. But I also think that I think that it's good as well that I'm not really schooled as a filmmaker, because you tend to kind of go in the same direction. That at least that's a risk if you have this education like on how a story should be and how how a film should be and stuff. So yeah.
So that's why it's important for you to do also exhibition. I saw on your website that you're doing exhibition, for example, for the last film. There is this huge the set of Minbar that was exhibited. It's important for you also not to stay in film only.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice mixture for me to also work with like fine art for galleries and such, because like for once when I have when I made this kind of film, it took me 2.5 years, and I was so exhausted when I finished it. So it's also really nice to just be able to let that part of your work go for a while, and then just focus on sculpture and things that kind of takes a little less time and it's more just a matter of like, what do I feel like today, and then you do something for 2 weeks maybe compared to 2 years. So I do a lot of like sculpture, like ceramic sculptures and other things as well. But I also exhibit the film and also like the models from the film. And that has been quite successful actually. It's I had no idea from the beginning if that would work. But since my sets and puppets are quite detailed, and they are possible to look at in different directions. I do not only build in front of the camera. I do build the sets in like, so it's so it looks okay in all directions. Yeah, it's been very nice to exhibit them, and people have been really it's been welcomed.
So do you build your sets before doing animatic or storyboard, and do you build it and try to do like more not live action, but thinking then what I'm going to put the camera, or you have already everything in your head when you build the sets?
I usually build the puppets before I do something else, because I enjoy to like have them in front of me before I start working on the detailed script, when I know like what characters I'm about to use. But the sets I usually start working with when I have a script, because you need to know somewhat what you will be filming. But I still work a lot more with the sets than only for the camera.
It's important what you said about making puppets, because your film are about actually relationship and human relationship. So it's important for you to understand the characters that are going to be in the film, like almost actors.
I would actually say no, because I kind of found out just by thinking about it just recently that I don't think that my characters are like the central parts of my films, like at least not for my last 2 films, because then I've chosen to work with the actual the place where it happens. Like in the Burden, it's this like shopping mall, marketplace kind of place, this kind of environment, and that was like the main like my main interest, and that's what made me write this story, because I had like really strong feelings about these places. And also in Bathhouse, I also kind of started up with bathhouses and like what they are and what kind of feelings they give me and people and what you can do with it. So I think like the surroundings are really important for my stories.
And it's always in the cities. It's always there. It's never at the.
Never in the forest.
Yes, it's always really like they will go shopping in Bathhouse. They go shopping at one point, and it's really.
I think it's a matter of I like to rebuild like man-built places from the beginning, like not a totally organic place, like a forest or like I don't know why really, but I do think that it's interesting to be able to because also when humans have made something from the beginning, like a shopping mall, then it's much easier to make it in miniature because like the sizes are possible to. I just think it has something to make a miniature out of something that's man-made from the beginning.
Okay, it's not just to put people inside a city, inside something more. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. It's much more when you put that in nature. If for a lot of films it's more fantasy, finally, and not of course in your film.
No, I like to keep it very straight and very like not so much fairy tale-ish. So I think that's why I choose this kind of boring or like depressing generic surroundings.
But it's interesting also because it's not realistic. I mean, it's not that you want to do naturalistic thing. It's really like you say a mix between all these things that we know from our, daily life, but change a little bit. So this tiny little. It's come like a dollhouse, but not with the fantasy of the dollhouse. Finally, it's much more
exactly.
raw.
I think it becomes some kind of when you do this kind of interpretation of the real world, it always comes with a twist. Even though you try to make it as realistic as possible, it's not really possible to do that. So I think that gives something to the atmosphere, and also like it's some kind of like uncanny valley feeling when you're like I know this surrounding, but it's something that is not really right, and then suddenly a fish comes out in a bathrobe, and then you're back in animation.
You use the rhythm in a really special way. How do you do that? You doing storyboards, animatic? Because it sounds like, I mean, the timing is really precise. So is it with the storyboard before, or you need the animatic to understand the rhythm?
I think it's been quite different to work with the burden, because the burden is very like driven by music, and the music I started out with, and Hans Appelqvist, who's the composer, I asked him to compose the music first, like according to my instructions about like what's happening in these different scenes. So for that film, it was really easy for me to work. I worked like with a music video. I could just like edit, like make an animatic with the music as a like base. But it was really hard actually, because for instance in Bathhouse, there I have no music and a lot of just like weird silences between characters, and I also really wanted to work with like a little bit too long silence, a little bit like the scene is a little bit too long and everything is a little bit off. So but that was very hard to I tried to make that like to get that feeling in the animatic, but it was quite hard, because then you have like nothing, you only have like sketches. So yeah, that was a challenge, but it was also a very different one from the burden.
The burden, when you talk, it's really different from the two others, of course. That was really something that you wanted to do, go to something really different. Like you said, there is no music almost in the two first one. There is music in this one, and of course that's not the most, but really an important part of the film. You have like this camera movement. You have like the singing, quite difficult also to use. It was really like a challenge to do something really different.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but it was also quite fun, because I also chose to not really work with the script details that much before I got started animating, because like in my two previous films I made really detailed scripts and like storyboards and animatics, and everything was really decided from the beginning, and then I started. But for this film I chose to, and that was also because I was in need of, like I could only write that this, like for instance these mice are supposed to tap dance in this scene, but then I can't really write anything more if I don't have like a choreographer helping me doing this tap dance. So I was kind of forced into like just using this kind of help, and also, yeah, I don't know, just be a bit more, go much more on just the feelings, and also think a bit more like as I said, like a music video, and it was really it was very fun to work like that. So yeah, I don't know what the next style will be, but it's been fun to do both. Yeah.
You worked on a video clip, actually, music video. I don't know how directly, but you worked on David Bowie, Black Star, music video, and doing props, costume, and everything.
Yeah.
Did you do? I mean, it was directly you worked and you were on stage and everything to that. Did you learn, a lot making that music videos?
Yeah, it's I for that music video, me and Niklas Nilsson, my colleague, we made the costumes and props, and yeah, I mean, it's always very interesting to be on set on these like huge productions. We went to Bucharest, for instance, to make a lot of these shots, where they have built like huge set designs, which was really amazing compared to how I work, of course. But yeah, so it's especially, I think it's really inspiring just to see people work in a much faster way than I do, and it's really nice to be a part of like this kind of more fast productions. So I really enjoy to be able to work in different areas like this.
Is it important for you? I know a lot of people in animation who wants to do, some long films. When I say long production, but suddenly they just want to do something really quick. I know in France a lot of people are doing comic books. They need that. You do like 2 or 3 years in animation short, and then you need something that are much more direct.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think it's like it would be impossible not to, because you kind of need to stay sane in some way. So I do think that it's really important, if you're doing animation, that you kind of need to also step out of it from time to time, and make things that are much more like that you can just because also, like, when you write the script like in for an animated film, then you really need to, like, is this script going to work for me? Am I going to be engaged in this like for the next 3 years? And it's so it's such a relief to sometimes just like, yeah, I got an idea, I'm trying it out, it takes 2 weeks, and then I can be happy with it, or I can just throw it away. And that's like really really nice to just have that, to be able to alternate a bit, because it's yeah, I think you have to.
Listening to you during interviews or when you got awards and you go on stage, and it seems like this film was really, really difficult to make. It is because for me, not only about the technical side, but also because of the subject, and it's quite difficult, of course, to do this kind of really not depressive film, because that's not, but about this character who tried to have something else in their life and are stuck in something.
I don't know, like, I mean, yeah, it was a really heavy production for many reasons, and I really need to stop whining about that now, because I've had a really good year since I released it. But I don't know if the story itself made it more difficult, because for me it's like I am kind of I have a quite dark inside. So this is like no like new thoughts for me. It's like everything is just really dark all the time. So for me it was a quite happy film. But like we had like a lot of problems with financing the film, and I think that was the main problem for me, like on the side of just like the technical stuff being really challenging. Like the most like the thing that took most of my energy was like basically to not have any payment at all for 2 years. It was really a struggle, and I'm really happy that I have a partner with a regular job because otherwise it would have been impossible.
You mean you don't have money to produce a short animated film in Sweden?
We do have money, but not enough, and especially not enough for this kind of project. It was very like it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort, and I needed assistance with a lot of things, and then then the money's out basically. So I mean, I think the problem is for the Swedish system is that I don't think that they sometimes you can feel that animation is not getting much more money than, like, say a live action short film, and you can, I mean, not always, but usually you can make a live action short film in a much less like in a cheaper way, and it's really hard to it's hard to it's hard to do that with animation. It's hard to make it faster than, I mean, it's you work as fast as possible, but it still takes a long time.
That's why we don't see finally so much Swedish animation short film, in festival.
I think that can be one of the cases, of course. Yeah, I do think that, and I also think that we, as I said, in Sweden, we don't have that culture. I think, like, especially not we do have some, and they do a lot of animation for kids, not a lot, but some. But for adults, it's still, it's not many people who does it, and that's also a problem for us who do it, because we need, like, animators, and we need people that are good at their jobs, and which there are, but not that many.
So do you remember why you choose puppet animation at one point? Because there is not so much in Sweden. Did you see something, I don't know, from around the world, a short film saying, oh, that's interesting, or no, you just at one point said, oh, I like to do detailed thing, and I will do that my way?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I did see a lot of animation when I grew up, like many kids, of course. But I think that like the puppet animation kind of came from me just being interested in making stuff. I think that was my, like, just main interest, and then I am, like, inspired by a lot of directors and a lot of like authors and, like, books and films and stuff, but not that much animation, to be honest. It's my inspiration comes from elsewhere usually. Sorry to say.
It's interesting because I actually love people right now in animation are saying more and more that things saying that it's nice to be in Clermont-Ferrand, for example, because the film is going to be shown with live action film, so it's not only animation, and they like to talk about, like it is real cinema. So
yeah, it can be really nice to do a little bit of both. I think it's really nice to be in a live action program, but it's also really nice to be in an animation festival. But it's I think it tends to be I think it's important not, I don't know, to I think it's important to be inspired by more things than animation, because animation that is only inspired by animation, it tends to get, like, very similar to that animation. It's you need to look up a bit, I think.
do you know more people in animation? Because of course from Todd and Simul, and now the film, you travel a lot, and so now do you talk with people who are doing puppet animation and talk a little bit, or no? Well, like you say, you talk about people that you love the cinema, but not because of the technique, just because you love the film.
Yeah, I think I often go more on like what kind of film it is, like if it's a good film, and I have met a lot of really good and nice animators. It's but still, like, puppet animation is quite rare still. That I've noticed that a lot. That it's there are, like, a few puppet animations, but it's not that many still. But probably because it's so expensive and, like, takes so much time. So I feel I hope that there will be more in the future.
We can say that last film is maybe one of the most successful. You've been to a lot of festival. You've got big awards from this festival, and it's funny for me because the two first films are, and I'm sorry to say that, but almost really Swedish. And it's not the last one, is not, but it's more like you say, Roy Andersson. You know, we can think about Bergman. We can think about that, and it's funny that maybe the one with more international feeling. I don't know if I can say that. You can, of course, is the most successful of the three.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, if but I wasn't really planning on that at all. I was kind of surprised as well. But like, yeah, who knew that singing depressed fishes would be so universal? But it was, and so I'm really happy about it. It's just you really like it felt like, yeah, that kind of feeling that the burden is based on it. It seems very universal, and that like a lot of different people can relate to it. So it's that's nice.
There is actually in the there is never much more action, of course, in your film, but and even in Simhall, for example, Bathhouse, when they take the chemicals and they try to, well, they run, well, they're not really running away. It's like it's a really kind of a still life, like something is.
Very low key drama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's quite interesting because that's quite almost new in animation. We need some time to go, really fast, or there is something, well, even in the editing. So that's
exactly. So I was really trying to work against that because I just thought it would be interesting to do an animated film that is not that kind of like cartoonish, that is more like very mellow and very like, I don't know, not very fast at all. I think it was interesting because I saw Anomalisa by Charlie Kaufman a few years ago, which I really, really like. But I also noticed that, like, in the animation industry, it was really like, some people liked it and some people really didn't like it because they had the opinion that he wasn't really using the animation the way animation should be used. And I can really relate to him in this matter because I think it's really interesting to use animation when you kind of don't need to. I do think he needed to do that, and I think I do, but like in a more low key way. I think it makes interesting films.
And one of the other things that are quite interesting in your film, and not a lot of people are doing that in animation, are the dialogues. That's quite important in your film. How did you work? And I mean, for the first one, I mean, the three films that you did rely a lot on dialogues.
Yeah, I've been working with the scripts for very different, like in very different ways for all my three films. The first film was I kind of adapted a short story by the artist Joren Jonasson. I adapted that story, which is kind of a little bit more abstract, and I adapted it to a script. So, but then the script was based on that story, and then for Bathhouse I co-worked with a Swedish author called Jerker Wirdborg, whose novels I really, really enjoyed. So I wanted him to kind of make a story in this surrounding that I wanted to use. A bathhouse and with certain characters, and in The Burden I had the idea about like what I wanted the songs to be about and like what the characters would what they like were supposed to communicate, but then I also asked the comedian author Martin Lok, who's also a Swedish genius person, that I just really enjoyed his kind of dry humor, but also a bit surreal humor. So I just asked him to make the texts for or the dialogue, if you wish, to the songs, and he did it really well, I think. So it's been different from different films, yeah.
But it's interesting. You have the story, but then you need someone, or you need a I don't know, a beginning of a story somewhere to adapt it.
Yeah.
It's important for you.
Yeah, it's very much like that, actually. I often have like I start out with like a feeling or like a certain atmosphere, and surrounding maybe, and like a few details. But then I kind of I often use help for maybe going into details and developing the story, because I think I'm much more a kind of atmosphere person.
Is it difficult? I mean, okay, I already talk about that when I asked you about the rhythm, but to do atmospheric film in animation, because again, a lot of people wants, like you say, movement in animation, and you like not to put so much movement. So is it quite easy just to have a producer to go there and say, okay, I want to do that kind of film, or then you go to a festival and people maybe talk to you and say, yeah, that's interesting, but you could animate them more, or thing like that? Do people not complain but talk to you about that?
I don't know. I mean, I think the thing for me is that I'm not really depending. It's not like it's, since I do a lot of different things. It's not, and I also see myself much more of an artist than only like an animation director, and so it's not really, I'm not really that, I don't depend that much on people's ideas on how animation should be, and I also had the same producer for my all of my films, and he's been like super supportive of all of my ideas, so I'm really blessed to have him actually. So, and he has like never questioned my stories. So I think it's been important for me to have this kind of artistic freedom all the time, and sometimes sometimes it works in the animation world, sometimes it works less good, but it's not the end of the world to me if it is so.
That's interesting, because at one point a lot of people in animation were just doing festival, and when I say just, it was a lot of thing, but they were relying on the animation community, and now it seems that it's quite different nowadays. And like you say, you're doing many things, and you like to do a lot of different festival. It's important to mix again.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to really talk about that, because I have had all of my films in Annecy, and they have all been quite successful in the festival world. So it's hard for me to imagine something else. But it is kind of it is really nice to know that you have your kind of second life in the art world as well, and also as like sometimes a prop maker, sometimes so I do have like different areas to go to with my work. Yeah.
You actually do more moment of life. It's like something like you come into a life of a people. You're coming to somebody's life like that, and then you just go away like that. Also, you don't have really a beginning or an ending in your film. How do you write that? Like you say, you're doing adaptation and things like that, but again, I don't know how to say that again, but it's like, for me it could be much more bigger, much more, it's like you could have like 10 minutes before what's happening in the film, and 10 minutes after that. Or do you just say, okay, that's the end of the film, I want it right there?
I think it's really, really hard in general to make short films, because you really need to adjust the story to that format. It's really hard to make a short film. I mean, because I think I see all of the time short films that like maybe has a story that is kind of too big for a short film, and sometimes it's like, it's just not enough time, and it's really it's really complicated. So I'm just trying to adjust to the format as well as I can, but I do think that it is really it is a challenge, and I think, but as I said before, also I think it's really important to like like for your audience to leave them with something, like something that itches, something that feels a bit like, what did actually happen there, and something to bring with them. I think that's the like main goal of making short films. Like maybe not having a complete story, but more like, as I said, like an atmosphere or something yeah, something to carry out from the cinema.
When I listen to you, if I said that you rely on your instinct when you're doing the film, is it true or not? I mean, hearing you, I think like maybe sometimes you say, okay, well, I will do that, and I don't know if it will work, but that's what I feel should be in the film.
Yeah, I think I do rely on my instinct a lot, and I don't know. It feels like even though I made 3 films, it still feels when I start with something new that I have never made a film before, and it's like it feels as I'm just a beginner every time, because the films are taking so long time, and I kind of tend to forget like how I started last time and how it was. But I also, since my films has been so hard to make, I think it's also good that I have such a short memory because otherwise I wouldn't have like the energy to make new films.
So what now?
Now, I have this idea that that I'm just starting to develop, but it's I don't really know if it's supposed to be something a little bit longer or something short, but it's I think I'm really interested in making some kind of like supernatural kind of thriller, like more genre film, but still in animation. And I'm really interested in like the financial world, and if it's possible to make some kind of David Lynch inspired film taking place like in a bank maybe, or yeah, something like that. But it will. I'm kind of yeah, it's a slow process, and I've been, with the burden, I've been traveling a lot, and it's just so many, emails to reply to, and it's very much work to like be touring with a film. So I'm just starting up, but yeah, I hope that it will be something, and in a few years.
Is it important for you to look? You already said that, to look around. Not only, of course, in animation and in art, but just to talk about what's going on in the world around you.
Yeah, I think it is actually, because all of my films has been about. For me, it's a lot about society and politics and stuff, and sometimes it's less visible. But I think in The Burden is more visible, for example. But I do react a lot to what's going on in the world, as many of us do, of course. But I'm not. I'm really. It really. I do think about it a lot, and I see that it's like influencing my ideas a lot.
But it's important because a lot of people actually now in animation are going back to contemporary. They're talking about wars and things that are important, but in the history, not a lot of people are actually talking about today and what's going on today.
Because it's really hard, and also I mean, when you do animation, it's because I've been thinking about that myself, like if I were supposed to make a film about like the next financial crash, for example, like then I might need 4 years to make the film, and what if something happens, because things can happen during the production, because animation takes so much time, so that can be a problem. I mean, it's much more safe, I guess, to do something about World War II, because that has already happened. You don't know what's going to happen next. Everything is happening really fast compared to animation.
So it's important. You say that in animation you can't do the same stories than in live action, because when you're gonna release the film, maybe. And we know in history of animation it happened that somebody is doing something political, and when Mackay did that, he did a film about the First World War. He was in the first, and when he finished his film, the war was over.
Exactly.
So you need to understand that and to do something that will be still relevant, but like in 2 or 3 years.
I think, I mean, at least it's something to think about. I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do, but it's more like, and I think that has been like, for the last few years, everything has been happening really, really fast, like different terrible things in the world. And I mean, if you just see like the TV series like Homeland, like I don't know if it's the new season or the last season, but like when they they did the new season, and they were so convinced that Hillary Clinton would win the election, and then like Trump did, and like Homeland just became really lame compared to reality, you know. So these things happens all the time, and like in animation, I think for me it's really important to be able to feel safe with the story, that the story will be like still matter to people in you know 5 years, you know. So that's it's yeah.
So it's something really difficult to be an animator and to do that, because
Be,
you
contemporary,
yeah,
yeah, to be exactly.
because you need to think of a lot of things.
Exactly.
Especially,
Yeah. I mean, at least it's something that I'm struggling with, because I really want to be very contemporary, but then I just need to accept the production, the time of the production, and like I just need to find that kind of balance. But it's hard. Yeah.
Do you sometimes think that doing something less with less sets, something with less details, just to do something more quicker, or yeah, sometimes?
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, sure. I mean, like I could do like just you know, something that takes place in one room with 2 characters, and that wouldn't be that demanding. But then I need to find the right story for it, and the last story was unfortunately it was you know, it took place in a supermarket and you know, hamburger restaurant. So it's like and you know, in several really demanding kind of sets. So that was unfortunate for me, but then it also became good. But I do definitely think that you don't need that much props and puppets and stuff. It's just a matter of the idea that you have.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.